Well, the St. Louis Cardinals swept the Arizona Diamondbacks over the weekend, but then Dylan Carlson decided to have his revenge game on Memorial Day. So the Cardinals dropped the series opener to the Orioles today. We're going to talk about what we saw from the Cardinals this weekend and today. What are some of the warts with the team or areas of concern we may have? What are the things that they have established themselves as potential contenders this year? And just kind of reactions of the ebb and flow of the early seasons as we're a third of the way through the 2025 season on this episode of Deal on the Cards. Hey, welcome back into Deal on the Cards. I'm Josh, joined by Sandy. Andrew's out today. He's still on his trip to Japan, but he'll be back soon. So we're excited to get Andrew back in the States. He's popping on once in a while, though, with us. So if you are liking the graphics lately, you can thank me for them for the most. Actually, no, Andrew's probably still done about half of them. But the Cardinals are undefeated until today with me doing the final score graphic. Now they're 3-1 when I do them. So it's pretty good. So I guess I don't have to do them permanently anymore because now they're 0-1 the last one games. But anyways, well, you would have thought after. What was that?
Take some pressure off you for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I don't feel like I have to carry the team anymore. So, yeah, they need to put me on the 27 or make it a 27-man roster and put me on. But oh well. Okay, so you have a big series victory over the Diamondbacks, which was a tough series, right? Like the Cardinals didn't play incredible, but again, like you're playing against good teams. At the end of the day, you want to get those wins. Cardinals made them or got up to 7 games above 500 after yesterday's game and riding high. And so in general, it's really hard not to be excited or not optimistic about what this team is. Again, especially considering the expectations many of us had coming into the year. Even the most optimistic of us, I don't think anyone really thought to be 7 games above 500 this early on in the year. But then you have a game like Monday, and it's hard to like get too. It makes this weird, right? Because in general, the vibe's really high, but then you lose the Charlie Morton. Dylan Carlson decides to find the power swing that he never really could find in St. Louis and have a 3-run bomb against the Cardinals. Offense was pretty slow today. It's just kind of a frustrating game. Eric Fedde kind of did his Eric Fedde thing where, yeah, he's been pretty good this year, but he's had some of these starts and the underlying metrics continue to indicate that he's not been that great this year. And today that showed against the Orioles. I was a little bit nervous coming into the series because, I mean, looking at this Orioles record, and it kind of feels like the 2023 Cardinals where you just keep expecting it to get at least a little bit better. And so there was a part of me who's like, there's no way they can get down to 18-35, right? And so there's just this weird feeling for me that going into the series that like, maybe the Orioles get it together a little bit this series. And they took game 1. So I guess initial reactions from today, and then we can kind of bounce back and forth between some of the stuff we saw this weekend and today, and then kind of zoom out a little bit. But your thoughts on today's action as the Cardinals lost to Charlie Morton and Dylan Carlson?
Yeah, well, one quick anecdote. This is just funny to me before I jump into that. If you go on Savant and you check out where both Charlie Morton and Eric Fedde are in terms of expected ERA, right? Charlie Morton's been the worst pitcher in baseball in terms of results this year. He's got, even after this game, a 7.09 ERA. That was after his best start of the year, arguably. I do think he might have gotten his first win today. I haven't really looked through the box score. I turned the game off in the 9th inning. But he's in the 14th percentile with a 5.15 ERA. So he's been pretty unlucky. Eric Fedde, on the other hand, has a 3.9 ERA after today's action, has been very lucky with a 5.12 expected ERA. He's in the 15th percentile. So we're talking about the same pitcher in terms of what the expected results are. So for those of us that are believing in Eric Fedde, I don't know. It's difficult. I am disappointed they didn't trade him this offseason. We can say that 100 times. But yeah, I mean, you never know what you're going to get with him on the mound. And today against a slumping Orioles team, where really, you're right, it does feel like they've just snowballed out of control this year. Saw manager Brandon Hyde was fired earlier in the season, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and it looked like it was never going to get better. But Eric Fedde can cure a lot of things when he's pitching like Eric Fedde has this year. So that sucks. But yeah, I mean, it's just an unfortunate game for sure. And the Dylan Carlson revenge game, very frustrating. Yeah, I mean, you hate to lose to a team like the Orioles right now, where you're thinking, man, this could be a good time to fatten up a little bit. And it does feel like, at least to me, the Cardinals have struggled to mop up against bad teams at times. Going back to last year, the Cardinals were pretty good against good teams last year. They had some notable series victories. They swept a really good Orioles team last year. That was really exciting. But they just have struggled to put away bad teams. I mean, I know they lost a series to the White Sox last year, right? And we can nitpick all day. But that's a little bit frustrating, admittedly. And the other thing is you're just in such a difficult NL Central or NL right now. NL Central too. The Cubs have played really well. You still have the Reds and Brewers hanging around, but as a whole, the league is just really competitive early in the season. And so it's tough because you do have to keep pace with some of these other teams. And yeah, it's early to be scoreboard watching and standings watching in May, but that's the nature of this, right? Like the Cardinals have been good enough this year and they've shown they have enough talent that people should start to believe they can make the postseason. They can contend. I think we've talked about that a lot. But if that's going to happen, you have to keep pace in a really challenging NL. You know, the Cubs won again today, right? They haven't lost in forever. They also are playing an incredibly easy stretch of schedule that's included the White Sox, 2 series against the Marlins. Now it's the Rockies, right? And the Cardinals will get to fatten up, but they have to prove they can. But they won today. The Mets are playing the White Sox right now. The Reds won again, so they're almost back to 500, right? So it's just difficult. It's difficult to see yourself slip a bit in the standings, even this early on. You got to keep pace. And when you get a chance against a bad team, you got to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's also game 1 of the series too, right? So like if they
Agreed,
win
yeah.
if they win the next 2, none of us
Yeah.
will really be complaining. If they drop 2, I mean, it's frustrating, but it is a road series. I still
Can't
think
get
Baltimore
swept.
Orioles are still a quality team. Looking at the Cardinals record, they are 3 games above 500 against both teams above 500 and teams below 500 this year. So sure,
Yeah.
you could mop up a little bit more on some of these teams that are struggling a little bit, but at the same time, I would take a 3 games above 500 against teams above 500 any day
Yeah.
over adding a couple more wins to the below 500 win column. I also think it's really important to note their expected win-loss. They're actually lagging behind their expected win-loss record by 1
Correct.
right
The
now.
run differential is great. Very encouraging.
And so you look at the team too. I mean, they're 19-8 on the at home. They struggled really badly on the road to start the year, and they've gotten better as of late. Obviously, they dropped a road opener today. They in general, I haven't checked the stats after this game, but they were top 10 in runs, top 10 in average, top 10 on base percentage, top 10 slug. They were top 10. I think they're 7th in starter ERA. They're now up to 16th in bullpen ERA. They're the best defense in baseball. Like all these type of things, like it's 100. And again, I'm not saying you weren't saying these things, but it's a marathon, not a race. 162 game season. The team is 6 games above 500 today. They can lose 6 straight and they'd be 500. I'm saying all these things out loud because when the Cardinals lose to Charlie Morton and Dylan Carlson, the immediate reaction is going to be a lot of frustration. And it doesn't mean you can't be frustrated to lose that game, but I don't want to make it bigger than what it is right now. Could this be the start of a downward spiral? Sure. But like that, if you're saying that today, you're predicting that, right? There's not really a lot in the box scores. There's not a lot big picture wise, stats wise, that you can really back that take up with other than people think that might start happening. Are there anecdotal things you can point to that it's like, hey, these things could point to the club struggling over the next month or two? Yeah. I mean, like, again, Eric Fetty starts a good point. You pointed out a bunch of things about Fetty's not as good as the ERA team or his ERA in the season says so far. And if he continues to pitch more like that guy, the one that the advanced metrics would say, but and beneath the hood, then yeah, you're maybe going to struggle a little bit. If Miles Michaelis, again, he's been overachieving. Does he continue to overachieve or not? Does Libby continue to be as good as he is this year? Or does he regress a little bit more to the mean? Does Sonny Gray continue to be kind of hit or miss start to start? Andre Palante's been fine this year. The bullpen at times, even though it's been better as of late, like, would it surprise you if they have a week where they're not good? No. Like, Lars Nootbaar has been slow a little bit lately. Wilson Contreras has slowed down lately. You can point to a lot of different things that could influence the team not winning. But at the same time, they've had a really tough schedule as of late. They demolished it. What are they, 16-5 now in their last 21 games? Like, overall, I think, again, if we were recording on Wednesday, there might be a lot more to say. But when you compare since last time we recorded, and it's these 3 games against the Diamondbacks and this one against the Orioles, I learned a lot more about this team over the weekend than I feel like I did on Monday's contest. But
100%. There's a lot of really good stuff to say as well. I mean, but it is really hard because this National League is really good.
For sure.
It's going to be a crowded playoff picture. And I'm just saying, like,
the Cardinals are on pace for 90 wins right now. They're not in a playoff spot.
Correct. And I mean, I don't know. You could say the Padres have underachieved, right? They just had a pretty solid losing streak. They're 3-7 in their last 10. I don't know how long the Giants stick around for, right? But the Diamondbacks are under 500 now. They're on a 5-game loser. They've underachieved to this point. The Braves have definitely underachieved to this point, but they're 4 games behind the Cardinals. So we've played good ball And then obviously, right, like the Cubs offense is the best in baseball. There's really not a debate there. I don't know how well they can pitch, but they've been fantastic. And if you don't win the division, you're going to be stuck in a really, really crowded wild card race where at least one of the Giants, Padres, Mets, and Diamondbacks isn't going to the playoffs, and the Braves. 2 of those 5 aren't going to the playoffs. And if you throw the Cardinals into that group, 3 of those 5 aren't. So it is very, very competitive. And so, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. A lot of good stuff's happening, and you want to see that happen. You want to see that continue to happen. The Cardinals have made up ground as well. So you're right. Maybe in a week, the Cardinals have continued to play well. They're 5-2, and now they've got a playoff spot locked down for the time being. So yeah, there's a lot that could go their way, but it's just such a crowded National League. It's unfortunate. And if the American League is far less competitive right now, it'd be nice to be over there.
Yeah, I feel like I said it recently that when I said I bought into this Cardinals team, I bought into the idea that their expectations from today till the rest of the year should be to make the playoffs, that they should push for that. And if they miss the playoffs, there should be a little bit of a, like left a little bit of meat on the bone because we've shown what we can do. But at the same time, to your point, there are plenty of really good teams right now that are going to be battling for that. And so games like today do matter where I think it's tough. I don't like when people are going to overreact. Like there's some that are probably going to look at today's game and be like, oh, this is the real Cardinals coming out where they're not a good team. It's like, okay, I really don't think that's a great take from this one game. But could this game end up make or breaking the fact that they can make the playoffs later in the year? Yeah, because they could easily be a 1-game difference between the wild card or the division and making the playoffs with how crowded this National League is. And so, yeah, you could look back on this Memorial Day game where it's like, how did we not take advantage of Charlie Morton this day? How did Dylan Carlson beat us? Like these things matter. But again, big picture and like the quality of the team right now, I struggle to see that. But again, we're a third of the way through the year. And so if we get to the 66% mark, and again, would it shock me if this offense gets more to middle of the pack over the next 35 games or 50 something games? And then the rotation has a couple injuries, or again, Michaelis and Fetty start pitching more like what the numbers show they should be. This bullpen struggles again. Like those things would deteriorate, would have this team falling back down to earth. But even then, like they have a lot of room for error to still be a mid-80s win team right now. Again, because they're on pace for 90 wins. And so that's where I don't know. I just don't like the idea of us grab. And again, you're not doing this. I'm just saying in general, because that's what's going to happen after a series like this, taking too many takeaways from it. But again, it's their series opener, so we could feel a lot differently on Wednesday if they take the next 2 or if they get swept or something in between.
No, for sure.
Let's take a moment to thank a couple of sponsors of our podcast, and then we'll maybe start pointing or trying to pinpoint some more of those holes and maybe some of the areas we do that are concerns, or some of the things that maybe we've been really encouraged by. There's one specific thing from the Diamondback series I really want to highlight that I think speaks to how this Cardinals team could continue in the race for the rest of the year. But as always, we're presented by 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 Olive Boulevard and all that, open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards. They've got the newest selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars around the league. Make sure you go check them out. Let them know we sent you if you go check them out. Send us pictures when you go in there and what cards you pull. It's always really fun to see our listeners in at 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. And we're always thankful for their support of the podcast. We also want to tell you about Underdog Sports. The Deal on the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the warts we're seeing at the team right now, or areas where it's like, hey, this could be part of their downfall this year if it goes through, or some of the things that excite you. So maybe we just go back and forth firing, like here's an area, something, it could be positive, concern. We don't have to go in order of here's all the positives, here's all the negatives. But real quick, I just want to remind this because I think it's people ask this question all the time, but it's fair. It's like, how do you lose the shorthanded Orioles after you get swept by the Diamondbacks? Baseball. It's like 162 games, and so you're going to lose some games to teams you should beat, and you're going to beat some teams that are better than you sometimes. That's why no team goes 162-0. No team goes 140-22. Like, what's the record for wins? 113 or something like that. You could pretty much bake in every team wins 45 games, and then anything above that, anything below that tells you kind of how good of a team you are, which isn't that crazy. Like if every team every year wins 45 games, then like you only win 45 more than like the bare minimum to be like a really good team. And so like, anyways, I just, sometimes I don't get why we get so concerned about losing a bad team. Sometimes if it becomes a trend, that's an issue, but you do every once in a while, it happens. So Sandy, what's an area of the team right now that you look at it and either you're like, hey, this is something big picture for the season, I think could be the reason they are a contender and a team that's really interesting to watch, or something you're like, hey, I'm putting my finger on this because this could be the thing that starts to drag them down the standings as we close May, get into June and July?
Man, there's a couple things off the top, but I'll say starting pitching depth. That's what it is for me, right? So
negative or positive? Because some people would say positive, but
I think it's a negative right now for the Cardinals.
Too.
The injuries throughout the system are serious. I think the Cardinals, especially if you go back to like 2023, I think they thought Tink Hence would be up and pitching for the big league club by now. I think they hoped Cooper Jerpy would be close or ready to pitch for the big league club by now. They traded for Takeo Roby late. I think they hoped that he might be close if he could be healthy in 2023, 2024. Neither of those things happened. So you're talking about Jerpy's out for the season. Hence is pitching again, but he's pitching down at like low A right now because it's a rehab start. And you just have no idea where he's at in terms of health moving forward. You really can't bank on that anymore. Roby's healthy, which is nice. And maybe he'll be able to help out late in the season, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. Quinn Matthews already missed part of the season. Like you've got a lot of guys out. Robersa, I believe, is still, he might be out for the season. I believe he's out right now though. So I just don't like your options. You know, the Cardinals have shown that they don't want to go to Gordon Graceffo. He's a reliever now. That's great, but he's a reliever. That's where he is. You know, maybe Kyle Leahy's an option next year, but there's no way they convert him this year, which is fine. He's been a great reliever so far this year. You leave him there. But after your front five, it gets really thin. And with as bad as Eric Fetty's been, with as bad as Miles Mikolas could be, right? Like that could go off the rails at any day. I think Miles Mikolas has actually pitched pretty well this year. I think a lot of the success is sustainable because you have such a great defense behind him. It's a better defense than the Cardinals have rolled out there since 2021, 2022, back when they had like the vacuum going in the infield. So they've been good and that helps out. But like Fetty could regress to a point where he's unusable at any point in time. Should have traded him. But I digress. So if that happens, if you suffer a real injury, right, you've got Matz there, but how much can we rely on Steven Matz as a starter in St. Louis? You know, how many injuries has he suffered in his time here? I don't think he's been a starter for the Cardinals for a period of 3 months yet in this 4-year deal. I don't think he's started consistent. I don't think he's made 12 starts in a row yet his entire time in St. Louis.
Probably not. Yeah.
He is not. So you just can't rely on him. So in my opinion, if you suffer a real injury like that, like, you know, Gray was dealing with some stuff at the beginning of the year. I know Palante's dealt with stuff in the past. It gets really bad really fast. So it gets dire. Maybe you're able to call up Quinn Matthews, but I'm not sure. Obviously, you got McGreevy waiting in the wings, but you need to cover innings at AAA too, and they're having trouble doing that. So, yeah, I think that's a real problem for the Cardinals. I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, I agree with you totally on that, where just takes a couple injuries or some regression or a combination of both, right? Where it's like, hey, if Sonny Gray goes down and Miles Mikolas and Eric Fetty both regress to the mean, like that's part of starting pitching depth too. And so, yeah, it gets tricky really quickly. For as much as I want to see Michael McGreevy and as good as Steven Matz has been this year, like does Steven Matz regress? And like McGreevy's not going to be a sub-2 starter when he gets his full chance, and that's what he's been so far. So it's like, I think most of us are expecting from Michael McGreevy, I shouldn't say most of us. I think a fair expectation for Michael McGreevy is in like the low 4s and maybe high 3s at best. And so that's not like a crazy good starter either. So you're not talking about adding some huge bullet thrower into rotation, getting him in there. Who knows? Maybe he surprises. Maybe he's just in the minor leagues. He just for some reason doesn't do that well, but in the major leagues, maybe he's an ace. I don't know. Probably not. I'll go to a comment in the chat that I think I agree with and I want to highlight on speak, but I want to like kind of put it in within context too. Mason Windu said the number one glaring issue, also awesome name, Mason Windu, but the number one glaring weakness of this Cardinals team is a lack of home run production. I do think it's a weakness, and I do think it's something that it restricts them in games, but I don't know if I would say it's the number one glaring issue, and I don't think it's something they can't overcome, even if it doesn't get a lot better. Right now, I just looked at, they're tied for 19th in home runs on the year with 49. If they hit one less, or if they had one less right now, they'd be all the way down at 23rd. And so like that's bottom third in baseball in home runs so far, but they are fourth in all of baseball in doubles with over 100 at this point in the season. And that's another way to score runs frequently. Again, that is a difference between one run every time though, right? Because this Cardinals team, if you have runners on base and you hit a double, you drive them in. But if you don't, then it's just you're getting on second, put yourself in scoring position. Really important thing, but you're also not scoring that run from the home run. I don't need to explain baseball. People know that. So, but I do think the fact that they're a team that hits a ton of doubles helps with that a lot. I also think they do have a unique strength of when most teams in baseball don't really hit for average and get on base anymore. The Cardinals do that at a really high level. Again, they're fifth in baseball and batting average right now. It's gone down a little bit because this last week's been a little bit more hit or miss. They're sixth in on base percentage. I think those things help a lot. But I do think the lack of home run production maybe at times limits the ceiling. And again, it makes it hard to have those really big innings to put a busted number up on there because it requires 4, 5, 6 hits in an inning to get it done. When in theory, you could have 2 hits and a walk in an inning and put up 3 runs if you're hitting a bomb. And so I do think the fact that Wilson Contreras really hasn't found the home run swing all that much. Newt's hit a pretty good amount of home runs for him this year. Like he was on pace for mid-20s home runs. He's the team leader of 7. So like I like that. Wynn's got 6 already this year, so that's good. But again, Herrera hasn't played a ton. He already has 5 though, so I think he's a guy that again can continue to bring that. Burleson has hit 4 in May, but you want to see maybe a little bit more power from him. Brendan Donovan only has 3 in the year. Jordan Walker only has 3. Not only has 5. Gorm again has 1 on the year. He doesn't really play anyways. I do think that is something that could come back to bite them. So another weakness or something that you are encouraged by that you think is a potential strength for this team?
Yeah, one quick comment real quick there.
Yeah.
I mean, I put that in there that they hit a lot of doubles. And while that's true, I think it's kind of unfair to just count doubles because the Cardinals have only hit 2 triples this year, which is good for last in baseball. And another team that's, in the 20s in terms of doubles hit, the Colorado Rockies, they've got 84, I think. They've hit 17 triples this year, which, if you add those together, they've now got the same amount of non-home run extra base hits as the Cardinals. So that actually does temper that a little bit for me. And so, yeah, I think on the whole, you can go beyond home run power and just say slugging is an issue for the Cardinals. That's not my thing here or anything, but I think it's fair to say that considering the fact that if you just take all 2 and 3 base hits, the Cardinals are probably outside the top 10 now just because they've hit so few triples and these other teams have, and they're bottom third in baseball in home runs, then I think it pokes a little hole in the doubles argument. But something that's big for me, I've been big on this all year, but Andre Palante and Matthew Liberatore, awesome stuff. Palante hasn't been quite as good as he was last year, but he's done a lot of really good things for the team. And I can't say enough about how great Libby's been. Libby seems like a guy that I'd start in a playoff series right now. I know Palante is pitched above his metrics a bit, but he's doing one thing that's really important, and he's generating ground balls at an elite rate, 63%. Oh, I just lost Josh. Yeah, I know no one expects triples, but you can add triples to your doubles total, and that's good for me. But yeah, I feel like I could start Matthew Liberatore in a playoff series right now, and Andre Palante generates enough ground balls to be a very good 5 at this point for your pitching staff. And I'm really excited that for once the Cardinals can enter an offseason and they can say, hey, we've got 2 young starters. We don't need to replace them. We're not worried about it. We've got these guys next year and we don't have to pay them a ton of money. So for me, it's a really, really good thing. It's not just for this year. It is good for, I can hear you now.
Okay.
It's not just great for this year, but it's great for the future too. The future of the club is going to depend on being able to develop young pitching. And it feels like they struck gold with Matthew Liberatore. So super excited about that.
1,000% agree with you on that. And I want to give it more time with Libby. And I missed a little bit of it. So I don't know how much you said that, but like, obviously like it is a short sample size for him so far, but it's so good that like you can regress quite a bit and it's still a major success story. But again, if he's close to this good, if he's 85% of this, 90% of this or more going forward, I don't know how, I think we're understating how not necessarily what you just did, but I think in general, we're understating how big of a deal this is.
Yeah.
Because this isn't like last year I was slamming, and I know a lot of people were, but I'm saying like I was beating my fists on the table saying how developing Andre Palante is a huge win for this team because you now have a back end rotation starter who you're not paying.
Yeah.
If you just developed a front of the rotation starter who you're not paying, which again, he'll be arbitration next year. So you are starting to pay him a little bit, but cost controlled starter, still developing. Man, That's huge. And it also takes some pressure off of Quinn Matthews and Tim Kentz and Tekoa Roby and Cooper Jerpy and anyone else coming through the system, Michael McGreevy, because it's not on them to be that guy. They
Who's
just
the
need
best
to.
homegrown starter the Cardinals have developed in the last 10 years? Like, I think this is a good way to put it in
10
perspective.
years now?
10
I
years.
mean,
Who's the best
it's,
homegrown starter? Is it
I mean,
Carlos
because we're,
Martinez? That goes
well,
back farther, but is
yeah,
it
it goes
Carlos
back.
Martinez?
I think, because I think he made an all-star appearance in 2014. So I think you'd probably argue that Carlos Martinez was before that at that point.
Yeah, he was an all-star in 15 and 17. They called him up in
Okay.
13. He broke out in earnest in 14.
Okay, I guess if we're counting,
he didn't make his first.
Yeah, maybe Carlos Martinez is. I think it's a conversation now because Michael Wacha, I'd say, is back earlier, right? Because he had that debut 2013, 2014. He really started breaking out. We're talking about decades, 2015. Yeah. I would say you're putting a three-headed monster conversation right now of Carlos Martinez, Jack Flaherty, and now Matthew Liberatore is entering that conversation. Again, he can easily fall out of it. We're not trying to say he is that guy right now, but like, because Jack had that one really good year, right? Carlos had a couple good years and fell off. Could Liberatore have a similar type thing?
Like Jack had one great year. I need to look at Jack Flaherty's stats. I didn't.
Well, he had one of the best second halves of all time.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
It's sixth in Cy Young voting that year, I think.
That year he had a 1.52 ERA plus, but the rest of his time with the Cardinals, his next best year was a 1.22, barely pitched at all. His next best year was the year before that year, where he had a 3.34 ERA in 150 innings pitched, a 1.16 ERA plus. I'd argue that given the 3 years that Carlos Martinez was a great starter, that's your best success story.
Jack had the best individual season, but Carlos had the best peak of like 3 seasons where you go to 15, 16, 17.
Like that puts
this in 5.7 B WAR in 2016.
Yeah, that just for me that puts this in perspective in terms of how rare it is to develop a guy like Matthew Liberatore, especially for the Cardinals. You've had so much trouble developing anybody like this, and right now, I mean, Libby's ERA plus is probably higher than C-Mart's in any of those. I think C-Mart peaked at 135.
Yeah, 133 or 135. Which again, Andrew's putting this in the chat, and that's why we're saying like we're not trying to counter chickens right now and say the Liberatore is the best starter they've developed. Liberatore has now entered himself into the conversation that he could be that, especially because Jack only had that one really good year and then injuries held him back, and Carlos only had a few years, and so he will take a few more years for Liberatore to surpass Carlos. But at the same time, we will be able to look back and have the hindsight that Carlos Martinez fell off. Liberatore, if he's an all-star this year and pitches as good all year long and starts next season like that, then we could say, hey, Liberatore is on track to be that guy.
152 with an expected ERA under 3.
For Liberatore right now?
Yeah. His expected ERA is 2.97, 80th percentile in the league. That's the best guy on your staff. Like developing that this year, especially because I saw a poll on Twitter that said, ooh, had you given up on Liberatore entering this season? Like 40% of responses said no. There's no way. People are lying when they're voting in that poll because I know people have given up on Libby, especially because of the success he found in the bullpen. So that's fine. Yeah. But like, it's a huge win for the Cardinals. It can't be overstated how big a win it is for the Cardinals. And it kind of helps us just get away from the stupid narrative that the Arozarena trade was holding the team back. We can finally stop talking about that for once.
It's also funny too, because it's like, for the amount of people that said on that poll that they believe Libby was still a starter, there's no way with the reaction the past few years, but also the amount of people that were like, how did Matthew Liberatore make the rotation? Where they were like, there were so many people who were like, what are you talking about? So anyways, it's fine. Okay, so I'll go to a positive. I love that Liberatore comment. Yeah, I think it's great. A positive I would add to this is the fact that this team fights and this team does not back down. Yeah. And I feel like this is a weird, and this does get anecdotal where you can crunch the numbers either direction you want. Like if you look at the Cardinals offensive numbers when the scores within 2 runs in the 8th inning or less, it's actually not very good. They're like bottom 3rd in baseball. But then it's hard because I haven't found a system that breaks that down between when they have the lead versus when they're behind. But their numbers are when they're trailing in a game or top 10 in baseball. When they have a lead, they're about middle of the pack. So what that tells me is when the Cardinals get a lead, for some reason their offense just doesn't produce like it should, which is part of the problem. Like you need to be able to put teams away. But I love that when this team goes down, like even in today's game where it hasn't looked good, man, I don't doubt that they can come back in any inning. I really don't. And I know they don't doubt that. I know they go up there and they don't look defeated. It doesn't matter if Kyle Leahy comes in there and he's been nails all year, but then gives up and I'm just coming to a hypothetical situation. But I mean, it even happened actually on Sunday where Kyle Leahy came in there. He didn't have his best stuff. Steve Matz came in there. Defense fell apart. Honestly, when a defense falls apart in an inning, that's even more demoralizing than when a pitcher does, in my opinion. Because it's like you should have those outs. This game should be over, and it's still going. And this team punches back every single time. And what I love about this too is that is something that if they can carry that for the next few years too, that is a huge sign of what this team can be moving forward. I think it's one of the things that can help them stay in a playoff race throughout the summer. Again, we just talked about the very top. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to be a playoff team this year, but I do think they should be aiming for that. That should be their goal at this point. And when you have an offense that produces like that, when their bullpen, since Ryan Fernandez was sent down on like April 24th or 25th, I think it was, their bullpen in the 7th inning or less of games is top 6 in baseball in ERA. So they're holding leads or they're keeping them within a game. They aren't blowing the games anymore. The rotation, again, is top 8 in baseball. So for the most part, you're getting starts. Again, outside the random Eric Fetty blow up, Miles Michaelis blow up so far. Well, actually, that only happened once. But out of the random blowups here and there, the starters are giving you a chance to win. The bullpen's not blowing the game. The offense fights back. I love that. And I think it's a really encouraging thing because you cannot tell me that was true of the 2024 Cardinals or the 2023 Cardinals. You look back at those teams, actually first half 2023 Cardinals, it did count a little bit because they were like a top 7 offensive unit all the way through the deadline, fell apart in the second half. But second half of 2023, all the way 2024, it was like, man, this offense, one thing goes wrong. And it's like, well, they don't have it. And again, some of it was the fact that they just weren't as good last year, but you could just watch those at bats. They look so demoralized. Like Goldschmidt walk up there. It's like, dude, do you even like believe in yourself anymore? And I'm not critiquing Paul Goldschmidt. He's a professional. I know he did. It just, the vibes are so bad. It's completely opposite right now. And I think it's a big, big win.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. Oh man. Yeah. It does feel like they want to be out there. And, to tack on there, it feels like Ollie wants to be here too. Like Ollie wants to win. Ollie knows that he is kind of managing for his job this year too. And maybe Ollie's great and the Cardinals still decide to move to an Albert Pujols coming into next year. I mean, there's a good chance that happens, but like you can tell he's soaking it up. He's already been thrown out of a game. I expect to see him thrown out of another one, but before the year's up. He wants to be here so bad, and he fights for his guys. I hear Ollie criticism just in conversations with people, and also like, from Cardinals fans on Twitter, whatever, in our chat. But like, you can tell he cares about his guys. He defends his guys. If you watch his post-game pressers, I've never seen Ollie. He hasn't thrown anybody under the bus in a long time. And I think when he does, it's a calculated decision because it's reached that point. You want to go back to the Tyler O'Neill drama from 2023. But I mean, he fights for his guys. He has their backs. And I think that's huge. Yeah, he's really competitive. I think Ollie goes out there every day and wants to win. He hates losing. You can tell it's written all over his face. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This team has so much fight. Yeah, another thing here, the Cardinals have been great against good teams this year, which is really important. I mean, the Cardinals are 14-11 against teams above 500 this year. What do you think that mark ranks among all teams in the NL?
4th or 5th?
Second. It's actually second.
Whoa.
They're one behind the Mets for the best record against teams with a record over 500. And that tells you, first off, the Cardinals have played a tough schedule. The Dodgers are 8-8 against 500 teams. Mickey Mouse schedule. They haven't played anybody over 500. 16 total games this season. The Phillies are 13-12. 4 of those losses are the Cardinals, by the way. The Cubs are 10-12. So they've played fewer than us and are sub 500 against those teams. Cardinals are 14-11. They've got series wins against Kansas City. They swept Minnesota. They have 2 series wins against Philadelphia. They did get rocked by the Mets, but it's a lot of really good stuff. So even some of these other teams, the Padres 11-15, the Brewers 12-19. Like I don't trust they can beat good teams. So Cardinals, and I'll throw this in here too. They've protected Busch Stadium. The Cardinals have won at home against
18-8, right?
Yeah, it's the second best home record in the National League. Only the Mets have been better at home, and the Mets have a really, really good record.
19-8, actually.
They've been outstanding at home, and they've been outstanding against good teams. And, when some of these things, I think the Diamondbacks are going to finish over 500, right? That's another sweep right there. That's 3 more wins against a good team. The Cardinals did well on the road against Cincinnati and split a series there. So, and they swept Milwaukee, right? So they've been really good against competitive teams.
You could also, which it's the part of like this early in the year, looking at the above 500 records thing, is that it can change literally every other day because teams hover around 500. That doesn't include the Diamondbacks anymore, who I think we'd agree are a really good team. They just swept, and so, which again, that could, I
17
mean,
and
there's
11.
yeah. So, which there's other teams that they would add to the loss column if they are included, or they add to the win column. So yeah, I do think the fact that they're competing against and playing really well against really good teams, and I know that they're losing, like today, on a day like this, they played down to the competition, they lost. Even though I'd say the Orioles, I don't know, I still think they're a talented club. I'm not counting them out. I mean, counting them out for making the playoffs at this point, but the American League is weak. But I don't think they're a bad team. Oh gosh, they're 9.5 back of the wild card. That's crazy. Orioles have just been bad. But I really don't feel like I felt like the Cardinals played down their competition.
It's a
yeah, and it's like, I mean, early in the year, like the Angel series is really bad, but it wasn't like a team disaster game. It was like the bullpen really in most of those games. So like, anyways, I know we were talking about going back and forth, but here's a question I've actually been wondering myself, and I love that Mace Windu threw in there because I don't think it happened, but I'm gonna put it on my list of things that's like, I would go, whoa, if I saw that, but I wouldn't say I didn't think it could happen. I would say, you know what? I'm not shocked is if Marmol took a job in the front office after this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying. I don't know if it'd be make room for Pujols, but if they wanted a different manager, I don't think Ollie's gone. Now, at the same time, I think Ollie's going to be the manager beyond this year. It'd be hard to, with how they're playing right now, it's hard to believe he won't be. But I remember Mo talked about this, I think it's a winter warm-up, like that he thought Ollie was going to be their farm director one day. That he's so passionate about player development and young players that was the path they thought he was on, and they ended up working out. They ended up becoming a manager, and so I wouldn't be shocked if one day, because I mean, Skip Schumacher is going to be a manager again at some point, but like he's jumped in on front office. I mean, it's not uncommon to see managers promoted in the front office roles change gigs, but I think it's kind of fun. So, one other positive I'd put with this team this year, well, I think in general I want to say the young guys we all know that, right? That the young players, for the most part, besides Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman performing. But this is kind of an Ollie take, and I think it gives me confidence that they can continue to develop the young guys. Is I continue to be impressed by the way Ollie surrounds himself with the right people. That every year, you look at the bench coach role, start off Skip Schumacher. Then he wanted Matt Holliday. Matt Holliday decided to back out for family reasons. They quickly had to pivot to Joe McEwing because that was really the only reason to do it, or the only guy left. Joe McEwing clearly didn't work out. The 2023 season was terrible. They upgraded him to a front office role. They bring in Daniel Descalso. He's been a great hire so far. You look at, they went out and got John Jay. They went out and got Brant Brown. Dusty Blake's been a really good hire.
Brant. My guy.
I like and Ollie's been open about that. He's wanted, if Yachty was in, Yachty would be in the dugout every day right now. Ollie wants that. And he doesn't care that the cameras would pan to them during a losing streak and fans would be like chanting for Yachty. It would happen. If Yachty had been in that dugout last year and that team had started like it did, there would have been real chance in Busch Stadium that Yachty's going to be taking over for Ollie's manager. He doesn't care because he wants the best possible minds around him. He wants the best possible team around him to pour into these guys, to develop these guys, to win ball games. I think it's a really good sign of a leader is a guy who's not intimidated. He doesn't want to be the smartest person in the room. I mean, that's not to say Ollie's not smart, but he wants to surround himself with awesome guys that'll challenge him, who will help sharpen him and sharpen the players. And I think it's a good sign about this club moving forward is you're constantly going to be having the right guys around you. Now, Ollie was a part of the front of coaching hires. It's a mixture of front office and the coaching staff, but Ollie did talk with John Jay. He talked with Albert Pujols about Brant Brown. I think there was another guy they name dropped that they had kind of done. And obviously they do a lot of legwork on all these guys. But yeah, Brant Brown was part of Ollie. Mo was a part of that too. But again, I'm very encouraged by the fact that they have the right guys around them. And you just continue to hear all these different stories about John Jay, Brant Brown, Dusty Blake, Ollie. Their staff has poured into guys and helped develop this team.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. It's awesome. I remember going back to 2022, the first year of Ollie. It was, they talked about like the Marmol Schumacher brain trust all the time. I feel like that was the word that BT liked to use on the broadcast. And it really was how it felt They push a lot of the right buttons. He's doing that again this year, and he definitely has great people around him. You're absolutely right. It's good to know moving forward that he's not afraid of that, and that could help usher the Cardinals into another era where Albert Pujols is involved, which is awesome because that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Another positive for me, great defense. Not just great defense, like historically great defense so far for the Cardinals. It's been unbelievable. You've got a bunch of guys that are either going to win Gold Gloves or going to contend for them. Mason Wynn should get a real shot at the Gold Glove at shortstop. I love that idea. That'd be hilarious. I
Just
think
for listeners, Andrew typed in 2 managers. Ollie gets ejected every game. Yachty takes over. Absolute cinema.
it would be cinema. I would love to see Ollie get ejected more often. It's so fun. But like Mason Wynn should get a shot at the Gold Glove at shortstop. And right now, like Nick Allen in Atlanta has been really great this year. He might win it, but Wynn's going to be a finalist. Victor Scott's going to be a finalist in center field. Walker's taking a big step forward and right. He's not level right now, but he has been much better. He is at least average when he's out there. Brendan Donovan has been good all over the field. Wilson Contreras should get a shot at the Gold Glove at first base with how good he's played so far. And there's room for improvement there. He could get even better. He's been really, really great. Alec Burleson has been better than you thought at first base. He had a great pick the other night. Nolan Arenado might get back his old winning ways. He's been fantastic at third.
I don't know if Sandy's connection went out. Let me know if you can hear. Here, Sandy. Hopefully you're still in here. Hopefully I'm not talking over you right now. I don't know. We'll see. I think we lost Sandy. Okay. Yep, Sandy blew out. Okay, so I'm gonna let Sandy sit there. That face on there is awesome. I'll continue. If Sandy pops back in, great. If not, we might wrap it up here soon too. Anyways, Sandy, feel free to throw yourself back in if you end up being okay. Oh, okay, here I am. Oh, Sandy's back. Boom. Beautiful.
There were 2 of me for a second. How is that happening?
Defense.
Hey, am I working? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Wi-Fi.
Yep.
All the above. The defense has been great. I don't know how much you guys heard. I think Nolan Arenado is going to win a Gold Glove this year. I'm excited. But it's been amazing. The Cardinals in team outs above average are hanging around 25. I know today wasn't great, but you didn't have Nolan Arenado there, and one of those errors that led to a run was a Nolan Gorman error. Brendan Donovan should have held onto that ball from Pedro Pajes, but whatever. Can't complain about little stuff like that too often. They've been great. And I feel like normally bad plays stick with me a lot longer than good plays do. And I can still name a few bad plays from this year that have cost us, but I can name a lot more great plays. Nolan Arenado the other day against the Diamondbacks saved a run, kept us in the game. That was a great play, saved a run. I can't tell you how many balls Victor Scott has run down in the gap. I know Jordan Walker ended a game running down a nice ball in the gap. There have been a lot of great moments from this team. So a lot of plays I didn't think would be made off the bat that have been made. They have kept the pitching staff in games. They've lowered ERAs across the board. They're helping guys out. The defense has been unbelievable. And if it's this good all year, that's the type of thing that doesn't slump and it keeps you in the playoff race,
Yeah. Totally. You love to see it. It's a testament again to the coaching staff at that point. Obviously, it's a testament to the performance of the players. And I think it was Lars Newbar talked about recently that he felt like 2 years ago, they just weren't even positioned right. And so they innovated, they made the changes. They're like, hey, we realize this has not been good and we got to make some changes and get better. And they did. And I'll say that'll be my last take. And I think we can probably wrap up for this episode. And we've got a special episode coming Wednesday. I'm really excited for you guys to hear from our guests that we'll have on Wednesday. Really excited about that podcast. And so make sure you stay tuned for that. Probably come out mid-afternoon or record in the morning, but should be a good one. Yes, it is a special episode, so you'll see soon. But and this is actually related to that guest, but we'll see on Wednesday. But I am really encouraged by how the Cardinals have been willing to innovate and change. And I think one of the things that, and we'll have to continue to see moving forward, right? Because it's a small sample size for this year. I think a lot of us have gotten kind of annoyed at times by the way that sometimes it feels like at times, I'm not saying this happened all the time, but sometimes I feel like the front office talked down to people. And honestly, at times we're like, I mean, you even get to end of season press conference where they basically like, hey, we had a major problem with player development and we've got to overhaul this, spend a lot more money in it. We got to reduce payroll, all that stuff. But then when they're asked questions about how it deteriorated, they were like, well, it really didn't. And it was like, what? Like, what was it then? Are you going to admit you were wrong or not? And it feels like they don't really want to admit that most of the time. And they want to kind of act like they know what they're doing more than everyone else. And that, again, I do agree. The front office, most people in baseball know far more than most of us do. There's a reason to have those jobs. At the same time, you got to be willing to admit when you're wrong. You got to be able to innovate. I love Time Bloom's opening presser where he talked about you can't rest on your laurels in this business. You have to continue to innovate and change, because the minute you stay stagnant is the minute you fall behind. And I feel like we're seeing that with this organization this year, where it feels like things are changing and getting better. And honestly, in some ways, they're reflecting the old Cardinals, but it's because they're embracing the new era of baseball. Because what made the Cardinals so special was not that they stuck to their guns and they stuck to tradition, true, but their tradition was being the innovative team, the cutting edge, the front of baseball, the team that everyone else wanted to be like, right? It was in the 80s with Whitey Herzog, where they play on the AstroTurf and they get running and they play good defense and they beat teams in a way that other teams aren't doing. It's the early 2000s. Jeff Luhnow comes in there. They bring in the money ball, the sabermetrics. They get stars, but they also win around the edges. They do player development better than everyone else. And when you play baseball like that, it looks like it's how it's meant to be played, and it's beautiful. I think I'm seeing, again, it's taste and see, it's little remnants of it, but I feel like we're starting to see from this organization more transparency and ability to innovate and adapt, which will be needed to be able to win moving forward, especially in a baseball environment where payrolls are getting huge. The Cardinals are not going to catch up with the big markets. They just aren't. Will they start spending more? And should they start spending more? Hopefully, and yes. But will they ever be the Dodgers, Mets, or anyone else like that? No. And I think if they're going to compete with teams like that, though, you got to win on the edges. You got to be better at them and other things. And I think the Cardinals might be trending that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see. You're right. And the Cardinals, I mean, St. Louis is a beautiful place because they really do, at their very best, they combine the tradition and the pageantry that goes with baseball, right? I think St. Louis does opening day better than anybody else, for example. You know, Busch Stadium is a beautiful place to be. It's retro, right? But it's also modern and wonderful. They combine the pageantry of it all with, you know, the cutting edge, like you said,
Yep.
and that's how it's got to be done. And so to see part of that get brought back is really nice. And yeah, I think as we continue to transition, and you know, I mean, you're right. We'll see on Wednesday. It'll be a great discussion. But as Chaim Bloom takes over and we get to see what he brings to the table, yeah, you could get even more of that. You know, the Cardinals might be back.
So again, we're a third of the way through the season. So far, the Cardinals are 6 games above 500. They are a half game out of the wild card. I think they're like 3 games out of the division right now. Of course, the Cubs are playing the freaking Rockies right now. That's frustrating. But it's good times in St. Louis, good vibes. We'll be with you all season long. Again, we got a special episode coming Wednesday, so we're really excited about that. So make sure you tune in for that. Like and subscribe. It helps channel a ton. Make sure you check out 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. Comment down the videos. It helps the channel out. It helps other people find it. We love listening to your feedback. Also, we did a Q&A episode of the weekend that did really well. We're doing those every Friday or Saturday. If you've got questions or topics you want us to talk about, we aren't talking about in the podcast yet, especially because Wednesday we've got a pretty narrow direction where we're going with things. So it won't be a lot of like fan questions as much. But if you have things you want us to talk about on the podcast, submit them because we talk about those on those Q&A episodes a lot. We appreciate the support as always, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Chaim.